Hey, and welcome back. So in this next couple of videos, I will be showing you the data structures in Pandas. So Pandas primarily deals with two data structures, the series and the data frame. I'll tell you the difference between the both of them. So the series is like a single column. When you picture back to Excel, your series data is like a single column, right? So just a data with just one column. That is a series. It is a one-dimensional array holding data of any kind. Okay, so this is an example of a series. Just see, it doesn't have any column name. You just see the item in that particular column. So you can say I have A, 1, 7, 2, and 4. Now you see that I'm using a function in Pandas called pandas.series. So this function is what is going to convert this list into a series, a single dimension uh, array. So when you run this, let me give it a run, execute this, you will see that I've gotten my series. You can see 1, 7, 2, and 4. Another thing you should take note of is this section. You see 0, 1, 2, 3. By default, whenever you create a new either series or data frame, you get to see this index. Is sometimes called label, or in list and dictionary and list and tuples and the other group data, it is called an index. Now, this index, what it allows us to do is it allows us to individually fetch rows from this series. Same with the data frame. So in Python or Pandas, we call them labels. So if you don't specify your labels when creating your data series or data frame, the values are labeled with their index number. And the first value is 0, the second is 1, and so on and so forth until you get to the last value. And this index or label are used to get or extract the item, right? The row from the column, right? Each of this is a row, is one row, second row, two row, three row. When you want to get the item from the series or the data frame, you can use the labels. Okay. Now by default, like I said, the to default to using the index. Or if you do not, if you specify for it, it will use what you specify as your label. So this will give us, when I run this, I should get, if I want to get this first item, I will put in this box. So you remember this box from list. Whenever you want to extract or access an item in your list, you use this square bracket. So same concept here, nothing has changed. I've gotten the first one. I want to get the last one. I've just typed. Sometimes this works, but not on all cases. So this would not work. It doesn't, the negative index does not work when you convert to a data series. So let's use, if I want to get the last one, I have to literally specify that I want 3. It will give me the last value, which is 4, which is good. Now, remember I told you that your index is by default going to be the labels. But what if you can specify your own labels without having to default to the uh, index? So to do that, it's also very, very simple. The same process, you get your list, you get your pandas.series, right? You put it in like this. Then a concept I'm going to show you. I'll add this to the screen. Press Shift and Tab to give you a description of the function, whatever function you are working on in uh, Jupyter Notebook, whatever pandas or Python function you're working on. You can go inside of this open and close parenthesis, press Shift and Tab. It will give you a clear definition or description about that particular function. So you can see this function series takes in a data, which is this right here, takes in an index. If you don't specify, the default is none. If you don't specify index, the default is none. Takes in the type of data. If you don't specify it, it will either be whatever data you pass in or none. Then it takes in a name. You can give it a name if you want. And you can also confirm if this is a copy or the original. Then a fast path. So these are the arguments that this series takes in. You can read this to get more definition of what each of those mean. So this is a very handy tool whenever you forget what to add, the arguments to add into your function. It's very easy, it's very sweet, and makes your work a lot more easier. So that being said, we are using the data and the index function. Okay. Now I'm going to specify that the first item should be A, should be V, the second one X, the third one Y, and the last one Z. So for this, I'm going to do something strange, which is I'm not going to match this 1, 2, 3, 4 to this that I have here 1, 2, 3. So what will happen? So if you guess that what will happen will be an error, then you are correct. Because whenever you do something such as this, it will tell you that there's a mistake. You're supposed to match what is here, the numbers here, to the numbers of index here as well. So I need to go back and add that back in. Then run this, and I get my new series with V, X, Y, and Z as the index. Sorry, as the labels. Then I can extract whatever I want from them. If I want Z, I use Z. If I want Y, I use passing Y there as well. So take note, since these are string, you have to call them with string. Now, you've learned how to create your series with this is what we call a list. Now, you can also use a dictionary to create your series. Same concept for dictionary, but we'll get to that as well. So you want to create a series from a dictionary. You create your dictionary like this. Let me have them separated just for the clarity of it all. This to its own line, to its own line, and perfect. Good. So you get something like this. So you create this is your dictionary, day one. Then this is the calories for that day, day two. This is total calories, this is day three. This is the total calories. Now I passed in this calories dictionary to the series function. It will create a series for me that bears let me run this. The name of the labels will be the dictionary key. Then the value, right, the actual value will be these values right here. Good. Now, one more thing you need to understand with this to its own points. Good. Okay, so now when you're creating this with a dictionary, you now have a bit of flexibility, being that when I'm creating this, when I pass these calories here, on my index, I can specify the labels I want to include into my dictionary. So if I say, okay, I only want day one and day two, and I specify that on my index as a list, it will only create a new series with just one and two. That is the beauty of it all. Let me run this. So when you use a dictionary, you have more flexibility on what you're going to create with your data. Okay, that is why dictionary will be advisable for you to use, because it gives you that extra level of flexibility. Perfect. Now, the second type of data structure that we have in Pandas, right, is the data frame. Data frame, right, it sets your data set as a table. When we say something is a data frame, it means that the data set exists in Pandas as a multi-dimensional table, and that concept is called a data frame. Okay, while series is like a column, data frame is like a whole table. So let's say we want to create a data frame. We have two ways. You can create a data frame from a dictionary, or you create that same data frame from a list. Okay. Now this is a dictionary. You can see this is a nested dictionary. It has a key and it has its value. Its value is each of the values are list. Now, one thing you should take note of when you are creating your data frame from a dictionary is that the numbers of item in the list values, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they must match across each of the keys. You can see the key name. I have 5 items in this list. For age, I also have 5. For city, I have 5. For salary, I also have 5. Now, mind you, if I should remove one of this and I try to run, you will get an instant error. You can see the error at the bottom here. All array must be of the same length. It's key that you know what each error is talking about. I'm just going to do this. Perfect. Now, to create a data frame, all you need to do is just to, on your pandas, there's a function called data frame. You just pass in the data set into that function, right? Then it converts that into a data frame. Now, when it converts that into a data frame, it returns the data frame. Now you have to store that data frame in a variable called data frame or whatever you want to call it. Mostly I call it data frame when I'm teaching, but when I am actually creating something that I'm going to use, I give it a more descriptive name. For example, I might name this student, student details. Make it more descriptive so that whenever you see it, you know, okay, this is the data frame for student, or this is the table for student details. Then I just use the name and it and show it out. You can see the table for student details right here. You can see that's what I've gotten. So ideally, you always want to use a more descriptive name, but you will see throughout this course I will be using DF, but that is the standard when it comes to naming, short for data frame. And if the data does not have any actual meaning, just for the sake of learning. Now, so a quick class up. We say we should create a data frame with 2 columns, name and city for the student of this class. So I'm just going to do that. I'll call it data 2. Then I will create it this way. I would say that's 2 columns. Now I told you the column name is the key. Okay. Now for this, I'm going to just put in 2 items. Let's say the name we'll use Collins, and let's say Ruth. Okay, this should be a closing square bracket. Then I'm just going to put a comma here, go to the next one, then I'll use city. So this will be the column name. And we have to make sure that both match, both of them they match. So I would come over here and call this, let's say, Kentucky. I think this is how you spell Kentucky. Then the next will be Illinois. I think this is how you would spell Illinois. I think this is how you spell it. So that is basically the city. Then I will use this to create a data frame, a table in the pandas data frame. Then pass in this data to copy. Whenever you can copy, you should copy. It doesn't make you less of a programmer. Data frame. You get your city. Now, what you take note of is that my index are 0 and 1. It will always be 0 and 1 unless you specify your index. Same concept that you can come over here and press Shift and Tab and to give you what this is expecting. Expecting the data, index, column, data type, and copy. Now you can actually come over here and specify your index for each of these item 1, 2. I call this whatever you want. Like I say, index is equals to, then let's say 2 and 3. Then you get 2 and 3 here. So you can do that if you are interested in doing that. But I would advise you to stick with the original 0, 1 to the original index just to be extra safe. Now, the next option you have here for creating a data frame is to use a list. So this is a list, a nested list. We have a list and we have another list inside of it. Now, in this case, since this our list does not have a column name, when we are creating this, we have to specify our column name. Okay, you have to specify your column name. So you have this, you pass this into your data frame, look at the data list, then you must specify the column for each of the items. So you have this will be name, this will be age, this will be state, and this or city, and this will be salary if you want to. And if you do not specify this, you might end up getting a result that you do not want. You get 0, 1, 2, and 3, which doesn't make much sense. Okay. So you have to specify the column name for each of them if you are going to be using the series way of creating a data frame. So I would recommend you stick to using dictionary for creating your data frame. It makes it full, more integrated. Everything comes pre-built with the dictionary way. Okay, now to retrieve an item from a dictionary, as you would from a series where you want to get, let's say, the first row, right? We use a function. We don't just use this normal method that we use in series, which we simply just pass in the index number. Okay, there is a function for that because a series now has multiple columns inside of it. So we have to be extra careful when getting or retrieving item from our data frame. Now to do that, we use a function called location. Okay, that's the function we use. Now, let's say I want to retrieve the everything from this row. Let's say from this data frame called new data rows. Control. I want to retrieve the first row. Now you notice that the index or the label is 0, right? Now when I want to retrieve this, I have to know this label. So I'll go over to my dictionary. Let me just retype this. Say data row, but then use the location lock OLC. LOC is called location. This is the method that is unique to a data frame that you have created. Then I'm going to pass in the corresponding index. I'll put in 0 here, press enter, run this. Okay, let me put this in, print this and see what we get. Print. I think this goes in a square bracket, not a rounded bracket. Perfect. It's supposed to be a square bracket, not your normal rounded bracket. So you see, I've gotten the name, the age, the city, the salary. And it tells us also the type of data that you have to expect on that row. See, the name is a data frame object. So this gives us like a clearer, instead of using the other way, which is we use just the index number, we have to pair that with a function called on. In this case, it's an attribute, not necessarily a function, but it doesn't have that parenthesis. It's an attribute. Attributes are just properties of your data. Let me come again. The difference between an attribute and a function or a method, right? An attribute and a method is that attributes are just properties. When I mean properties are things that you observe, they don't change. Not necessarily, they don't necessarily change. Like this data now, this once you've created this and you've set it to be this value is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you retrieve it, you are not changing it, you're simply just returning or learning about the data. So those things that you learn about, they are called either properties or attributes. So this is an attribute. This location is an attribute. It just shows you what you already have in your data. It doesn't change anything about your data. But method or function, they tend to change something about your data. They tend to want to change something about your data. It's the way they are created. So this is an attribute that retrieve the items in the first column. Now, if you want to retrieve for the second column, you can also specify that. you get the corresponding values. Then I think I used for this, I think this, I want to retrieve the second column. For this, I could just use this function. Now with this, you've learned the basic fundamentals of this. You've learned the basic and fundamentals of, let's see what's the issue here. I don't think I have that. 70 data frame. Okay. I don't have one, I don't have zero. I have two and three. So reduce three here or two here. So you can see that we've gotten them. So now that you've learned the basic fundamentals of how to create a data frame, how to um, extract items from it. Now, in the next couple of lessons, we will be exploring a kind of a test work for us to actually apply the various relevant functions that you need in Pandas.